All right, y'all. This is your host Cam with Get a Load of This Trucking, and today with me I've got special co-host Ryan Young.
What's up?
What up? And then today, man, I'm super pumped. We got a cool ass dude joining us today. We got Eric Youngblood. Eric, what up?
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going great, man.
Yes.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, we're so appreciative, man. I'm excited about this one just because I think this will be a great episode and touch on a lot of reasons why people I think get into trucking and how much opportunity there truly is in the industry. So I'm excited to dive into this today. So,
Yes,
um,
sir.
hey, with you, so for those that don't know Eric, Eric's actually a truck driver, entrepreneur, I would say, probably is a better classification of that. And so we're going to unpack a bunch of things there. But with him being a truck driver, Eric, what is your CB handle name?
I'm newer to the game, so I don't have an official CB handle name. I wish I
Oh,
did, but
man, we about to make
those are
an
more for the
official
old
one.
school.
What'd you say? I'm like, what if K Miyagi gave you a CB handle right now? What would it be?
Most people will probably just use my last name, Youngblood. Most people just get a kick out of that and like,
Yeah,
Hey, I like
yeah.
I like Youngblood on the road. I think that's a good one.
I like Youngblood too. I feel like so. A little backstory. I've known Eric for a really long time. So Eric's a good friend of mine, and I think for the longest time, Eric didn't use his last name when he talked to people, just because I think it distracted them from.
I, I
He was probably tired of hearing the opening comments from my last name's Youngblood. So,
yeah. No, I
yeah,
like
I get it all from Jack Youngblood to the movie.
yep.
I got it all.
I think I would lead
yeah.
with that though if that was me. So it'll add a story and make you memorable, even though you already are. So, um, hey, I want to hear tell a little bit about your upbringing, your past schooling, exposure into the trucking transportation industry. What put you in the seat and led you down that road? Give us a backstory to where you are now.
All right. Well, I was born and raised in Louisiana, and I moved to Washington State when I was about 20 years old, and I was living up there for about 15 years. I finished my undergrad degree at Eastern Washington University. Went on to
Go
complete my
Eagles.
MBA as well. Yeah, love my Eagles. Um, from there, I went and worked in aerospace, and that was a very interesting industry. That was my entire goal, was to get into the aerospace industry. I did that, and then it was just time for me to move back home. So I came back home to Louisiana, and I was like, I'm here now. I've got money in the bank. What am I going to do with my life? So one of the things that I always wanted to do besides working in aerospace was work with heavy equipment. So I was going to join the Heavy Equipment Operators Union. I wanted to give myself a leg up. One of the ways to do that was to get a CDL. So I went ahead and I went to Prime Inc. It was the first company I worked with, and got my CDL there, and planned to come back into heavy equipment operation through the union. But the money wasn't right, so I was like, I can't go from making what I'm making now to not making that much, and trying to survive off of that. So I decided to stay in trucking and do heavy equipment on my own terms, which means buy the equipment myself and teach myself how to operate it. So I run open deck, which is basically what a lot of people know as flatbed. I've been doing flatbed for about 3 years now since I've been in the industry. It's all I've ever wanted to do. No offense to guys who drive boxes, reefers, or dry van, but it's just not in it for me, man. I gotta throw chains, throw straps, get up there and roll tarps out and almost get blown off the truck. It's just, man, I need that rush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, probably gives you a little workout.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
A
it
little bit.
does. It keeps me out. It gets me out of the truck and gets me moving. So, as you know, it's like how you go to college and you gain that freshman 20. That's definitely a true thing in the trucking industry. I when I got into trucking, I was a skinny guy, and then I got into trucking and gained a few pounds there.
Yeah.
Because really, when you're trucking, man, there's nothing to do besides drive and eat. So that's kind of what you do. It can be a very unhealthy lifestyle, so you've definitely got to check yourself, get more active, get some exercise.
Yeah, and a lot of that'll come from the like internal motivations, right? And for just like you wanting to make sure you're healthy, just for the sake of yourself, longevity, mental clarity, and focus. Because man, I can only imagine driving. I don't know what shifts you're pulling, but eating like shit, just feeling bad. You're kind of rushed up on Red Bulls or whatever you're doing to try to stay high and alert, and then you crash, like mentally crash, right? And then you're fatigued and brain fog and just not as focused to get the job done. So. And we actually had a dude, Mark Manera, on our podcast who that's what his whole mission is driver fitness, positive choices, while at truck stops, working out in the truck, out of the truck, just a bunch of different things with weight bands and little dumbbells and just body weight stuff, which was super cool. But even more, I thought was a better component of that is how to eat when on the road, because you guys don't have a lot of great choices when it comes to a truck stop, right? I mean, there's some, and I feel like it might be getting a little bit better, but for the most part, it's processed. I feel like a lot of carbs and just poor food choices. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
what are
100%
you
right.
eating out there?
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
the food choices out here aren't the best, like Cam was saying. It's a lot of fast food, a lot of McDonald's, a lot of Arby's. Arby's is everywhere. I don't know why there's so many Arby's and truck
they got
stops.
the beef.
Subway's everywhere. So it really is a conscious decision to go in the truck stop and pick out, if you're eating at the truck stop, pick out what you're going to be eating and making sure it's the healthiest option. There are some guys who have a refrigerator and a microwave or a small stove, and they go to Walmart and they'll stock up on food for the truck to make sure that they're eating have healthier choices to eat on the road. I'm not one of those guys because I'm usually gone Monday through Friday. I'm
Yeah,
home on the weekend, so for me, it's just like it just doesn't make any sense for me to do that.
yeah,
So I choose to have more dry goods. Like I have a lot of like trail mix. I eat a lot of fruit
awesome.
on the road, fruit and vegetables. I've been on a salad kick here lately, so when I stop at night, I get a nice big salad, and I've been trying out either from Mama Pops or some of the major chains of different salads they have. So
Yeah.
I've been enjoying that. It's actually I've lost a few pounds here,
Nice.
Yeah,
Are
so
you
yeah.
doing?
it's
Are you able
working
to
for me.
stay active at all? Like when you get out, are you doing anything, or do you kind of leave that for the weekends, or what are you doing just to kind of get moving?
So usually when I'm getting out of the truck, I'm strapping or I'm doing something as far as my load. So that's kind of my movement. I do try to walk more places instead of being that guy that parks at the front of the truck stop. I usually park towards the back and at least get a few steps in that way. But I should be a little bit more active than I am, maybe doing more push-ups and things like that. But that's one of the things that I'm working on is being more physically fit. I've started doing the push-up challenge.
Oh,
So
nice.
I started doing that. So knocking out some push-ups in the morning when I first get up, and trying to do some whenever I stop the truck, and then working up from there. I got some buddies who are doing the jump rope thing. So I
Cool.
think once I get into the push-up challenge, I'll grab a jump rope and start doing that stuff. But it's always awkward being that guy at the truck stop that's jumping rope and stuff. So I just like, it's like that self-conscious thing. Is I don't want to be that guy that's like sitting out there. Everybody's rolling by looking at me while I'm jumping rope. But that's more of a mental thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's why some guys aren't more active. But once you
Yeah.
get past that middle roadblock, I
Yeah.
think you'll feel a lot better. You'll have
It's
more
like, look at
energy.
that guy taking care of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What an asshole. Sitting over there on his cloud of judgment, casting his
Yeah.
stares at us.
Uh, Eating a salad. Who eats salad?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, that's
yeah,
cool.
exactly.
So a couple things then with the open deck. What's the cargo that you primarily haul? And then the other one is what regions or zones or states do you run into? Where are you going?
All right. So primarily what I haul are unfinished goods. We call those raw products. So basically, I'm hauling lumber, pipe, um, OSB board is what I have on my truck right now. Things in those areas. So steel, all that type stuff.
Okay.
Region I run, for me, I am leasing a truck from the company I'm with. I'm called a lease operator, but it's basically an owner operator, same thing. Some
Yep.
guys get very technical about that. But so for me, my truck isn't really geared to run in the mountains. So I like to stay in the southeast and I call it the mid south. I'll go up as far as north as Indiana, but usually I try to, as far as east I go is Birmingham, Alabama. I'll occasionally dip a toe into like South Carolina or Georgia. And then usually I'm running more west going into Texas, like the Houston, San Antonio area.
Oh, right on. Awesome. And Ryan actually was just telling me, didn't you make a trip out to Texas to hit a show up or something?
Yeah, I did. This past Thursday, there was a show out there. So, I'm out here working, and what's the point of driving all these places and not enjoying it a little bit, right? So, I was able to take in a show Thursday evening, see Erica Badu live. So that was awesome. Had a great time, and then woke up the next morning, called my dispatcher, and said, "All right, I'm ready to get out of Houston." He said, "Okay, well, give me a few minutes," and and he
Man,
got me a load going to Memphis for Monday. So
that's really cool. I think
Classic.
that's one of the draws to that job, right, Eric? Is like you get to see some cool places that a lot of people probably won't have the opportunity to go to, and this provides that as part of the job. Like you're just naturally going to start seeing some great scenery, some awesome cities, towns, and like you said, hit up a show halfway across the country as part of your work, man. That's badass.
exactly.
Love it, love it. So tell us a little bit about like how your structure works with the company you're working with. So, you say you're a leased operator versus an owner operator. I guess first, if there is a difference, let us know. And if there's not, just let us know like how your role works and how your, structure works. And do you have freedom of where you go, loads, etc.? Like, do you get to pick and
Okay.
choose?
Yeah, so the company I'm with, it's called Blair Logistics. That's where I currently work at. It's a great company. We do have some owner operators. So basically, when you're owner operator, it means you basically bought your truck somewhere else and leased it back onto the company, brought it back onto the company, right? When you're a
Right.
lease operator, it means that the company owns the truck and you're paying the company for the truck. So for me, there's like a weekly deduction that comes out. And for most owner operators, either their truck is paid off or they just are paying the bank or whoever once a month, right? But for me, it's a weekly
Right.
expenses. And it can be kind of spendy. It's a little bit more stress, but um, so the way our breaks down for us as far as my pay is I get 70% of the load, right? So we get what we call a rate con sheet, which is a rate confirmation. And of that rate con sheet, let's say the load's for $2,000, I would get 70% of that. But I also get 100% of the fuel surcharge. So let's say the load pays $2,000, but the fuel surcharge is $300. I would split up the rate for the load 70%. I would get that, and then I would get the full fuel surcharge to help pay for my fuel.
Okay.
Now, are
And
you
so it's like a
set
full
up on
reimbursement?
a
So
1099 there, Eric, or how do you get paid for distributions of the funds?
yes, I am a 1099 contractor. I have my own business, so I have an LLC. So the money rolls into my LLC's bank account, and I'm leased on to the company via my LLC.
Right. And so with the LLC structure, is this, I know you and I have talked obviously a lot about business in the past and different tax structures and just company structure. Is this like the same company that you've potentially had for a while? Is this one you opened up recently when you started in the trucking
This
industry?
was one I opened up recently. I opened this one up a year before I actually got into the lease purchase side of things because I
Okay.
knew I was going to have a logistics company. So I opened it
Right.
up a year prior and I kind of let it sit until I was ready to make this jump into either A, buying my own truck or leasing on. I decided that I wasn't sure the owner operator life was a life for me. So I went the lease route, right? Because it's what we call a walkaway lease. If I decide that I don't like this, I'd rather go be a company guy or I want to go do something else, I can drive the truck back to the yard, make sure it's clean, turn in my keys, and walk away, right?
Right.
Whereas
Right.
when you're owner operator, when you make the obligation to buy a truck, It works a little bit differently. If you try to turn that truck in, well, you still might end up paying for that truck. It works the same way, when you decide there's a car you have and you don't like it anymore. It works the same way. So
Right, right.
I decided to go that route, and I don't regret it at all, with what I'm doing. I've actually brought a couple other people in with me, to go this route. I was able to make quite a bit of money so far. I'm not won't complain about that. But the
Yeah,
biggest thing that I find that guys don't do is rates are great right now, and I'm sure you guys have heard this, but a
Yep.
rainy day is coming. And I always make sure that I'm putting money to the side from the rates drop, but also I'm buying other assets to where I can move out of the driver's seat sooner than later. Because
Awesome.
again,
right.
trucking wasn't my end goal. So my end goal is to be operating heavy equipment and be some more localized. So that end goal is still in mind. So, but I'm utilizing this resource to stack up money and to buy the assets that I want to be able to do that when I so choose and get ready to do it.
So it's a means, it's a vehicle to do other endeavors. And I want to unpack a lot on that, but let's just back up to towards the beginning of that. Just for somebody that may be listening to this that might be a company driver and is like, man, this is a route that potentially I want to do because it's exposure into kind of owning a business without taking all the risk of stepping out and owning that business, especially if something tanks and crashes and what have you. When you looked at deciding, okay, I'm going to set up an LLC versus an S corp versus a C corp versus being an individual, what landed you on the decision for the LLC? And are you taxed as an S corp, or how are you structurally set up, and what led you to that decision?
So currently I'm a single member LLC, and I talk with the CPA that we have on at the company. So setting up the LLC was easy. Anyone can go and do that through your state's website. You don't have to hire someone special to do it. You don't have to go through LegalZoom to do it. Just to set it up, you can go and set it up very easily through your state's website. In Louisiana, it cost me about $100, depending on where you are in the country. California, I think it cost them a couple $100 to be able to do it. So that's where I started. But the beautiful part was there's a CPA at the company that I work with, so I was able to talk with my CPA, make sure that my structure was set up right, and talk about how we're doing the taxes, how much to set aside for the taxes. Which when I get my gross pay, I take out 30%, put it into another account for my taxes, to make sure that I have enough money in that account to pay at the end of the year, right? Because when you're 1099, they don't take out taxes. So you get these big
I
paychecks,
learned that
right?
at the age of
You get a
20.
big paycheck. Yeah,
Surprise.
you get that $4,000 paycheck. You're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. But you got to be disciplined and put 30% aside, or the end of the year is going to come and smack you in the face. And you're going to be like, what?
Yeah. And
So,
I think that's a common thing that
working
most
with
people overlook.
Oh yeah, and it bites a lot of guys in the butts later on. So it's something that you want to be mindful of. Definitely, you want to have a great CPA. I highly, highly recommend it. Get one that's well versed in trucking, because they know all the loopholes and the things that you can write off and can't write off, and how to make it, how to lessen your tax burden.
Awesome. Yeah. And then now
Yeah.
fast forward for the vehicle. Are you planning on getting additional trucks potentially to lease on and put drivers in the seats as a little mini business structure under a business? Or what's your kind of long term plan with trucking to get you back to the local heavy equipment operator?
So for me, I would never own trucks. Just
Okay.
no, not this. It's too much. It's too much of a headache.
Like the maintenance.
You have there's too many factors that involve with, and the biggest factor is the drivers. Finding good drivers and keeping those good drivers in the trucks. Um, and if a truck breaks down and they're halfway across the country, somehow you got to get that truck towed, and then you're at the mercy of the repair shop where you are, and it's never cheap getting it repaired out of town. They're always gonna gouge you a bit. So for me, it's not worth it. If I was to go and stay in trucking, which it seems like everything's trying to keep me in trucking, but um, money is in the trailers. And I try to explain this to guys. I'm not the first guy to come up with this concept. There's companies like Landstar that are out there. that have already been doing this, like Mercer. The money's in the trailers, right? So a trailer is easy to insure and it's easy to maintain, right? Maybe if you got to buy all new trailers for the tires, maybe $2,000. If I got to completely go through a trailer, maybe 3 or 4 grand, right, to completely redo a trailer, and it'll be good to go past DOT, and I probably wouldn't have to worry about it for at least a year, year and a half, right? So I would just buy trailers and then hire owner operators and have them pull the trailers and do a percentage split with them.
And
That
then
way, they've got.
would you run the brokerage side on the finding the loads and like dispatching as well in that model then? Is that kind of the thought process there?
Yeah, yeah. I would either hook up with a company that's already doing that, that's already got the contracts, and I'm just bringing them the trailers, and
Okay.
maybe I'm interviewing the owner operators to do so. For me, I have no desire to own a brokerage, but I know some people who do have their own brokerages, right? So it would be a beneficial situation for them because they now
Yep.
have trailers available to be able to pull those loads. So they can take their percentage off the top, whatever, however that would work out. But if I was to do it, that's the route I would go. I would just own strictly trailers and find owner operators to pull them.
No, I like that, man. That's a different angle and insight that I guess I really hadn't thought of. So that's cool, man. I like that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And so, and you want to use that as a vehicle for like a local company, or would you kind of do that on the same, or try to do that on the same scale as like some of these other companies where you might have long haul guys and then you might have your separate side business that is the machinery? Is that more where you're heading,
Yeah,
or potentially
that's an
both?
option. Honestly, I haven't delved too far into it, and thought out how I want to completely do it. To be perfectly honest with you, but I'm working with a couple of different guys that I know that have started trucking companies, and I'm watching them and seeing how their company's growing. Currently, they're doing reefer and dry van, so I'm the guy with the open deck experience. So at some point, I will come to them and say, hey, would you like to expand your business into the open deck world? And
Yeah.
I'm willing to go buy 5 trailers right now, and run it through underneath their umbrella of their company, underneath their authority, and I just
Yeah.
be like a separate business or something like that, that's still attached to them, but we run underneath their umbrella.
No, I think it's a great investment opportunity. I think that because you stay your lane in investments, right, or at least close to what your expertise is, and I think that that's a very viable option. That's a great way to expand and get some residual income, if you will. So that's
Yeah,
good.
and you know what, man? I know I wanted to backtrack a little bit to talk about your LLC. So you and I have had some conversations in the past as well, and I feel like you're pretty well versed in this. Obviously, I know you're not a tax professional or an accountant, so we don't want to hold you to the highest standard. But when we
Youngblood
talk
CPA.
about LLCs, I know that there are some good ways for entrepreneurs to work on, I guess getting the most bang for their buck at the end of the day, and keep trying to keep as much of their money in house as possible. Can you tell us a little bit about like your understanding and experience with an S corp, maybe, as in that
So I haven't gone
overneath
that
you?
route yet. I don't have enough employees underneath me yet, basically.
Okay.
So from my CPA's conversations with my CPA, again, another CPA may tell you something completely different, but I
Right.
trust my CPA. But he was saying that where I am right now, just one truck, just me, right? Even though I have an LLC, it's still going to be tied to everything's still going to be tied to me personally. So for me, transitioning to an S corp right now wouldn't make a lot of sense because everything comes back into the same boat as being built with my personal taxes currently. So he said
Right.
once you add on additional trucks and you have employees underneath you, then he said he would transition to the S corp status. But he said for right now, where I'm at, stay where you are. His big deal was like, hey, just stay in the seat for 2 years. 2 years is the magic mark for in the trucking industry. Once your LLC has been established for 2 years, it opens up the door for you to be able to go buy a house with the income from your LLC, right? You can't really do it in the first year. The bank wants to see a longer track record, right? But once you get to those first 2 years, it opens up the door for you to be able to go do bigger things. So currently, what my goal is to do it like my CPA wanted me to, and stay in the seat for at least 2 years, so that way we can really start opening the door to other opportunities.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And 2 years is kind of a number in the insurance world in terms of CDL experience, 2 years in business. It opens a lot of doors for low insurance rates and insurability, which helps reduce the overall cost. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, lease operator, owner operator, I mean, bottom line is you want to reduce expense, right? And that's the end goal. So I like that you have a plan. You're going to execute the plan, stick to it, and in long term, it will pay dividends, just like everything else, right? So I think that that's awesome. Hey, what do you just kind of lighten it up a little bit here, get off a little bit of the boring structure topic? Because what do you listen to on the road? What's your go-to music, man? You got a playlist or like a genre, or what do you drop to?
Honestly, I listen to a lot of audiobooks on the road. I listen to that more than I listen to music, just because it's like watching a movie in your mind. So
Yeah.
I've taken advantage of some library apps that have where you can get borrow books from the library for free audiobooks. Because if I listen to as many audiobooks as I listen to via like an Amazon service or something like that, it would be super, super expensive to do. But I listen to more audiobooks than I do anything else. A lot of science fiction. I'm a nerd. I'll tell you that up front. I believe that things that are written in science fiction eventually become science fact. So it kind of lets you know what direction the world is going in and what people were thinking. But I do have some times where I listen to music, listen to a lot of different things. Love some Steely Dan, cruising down the highway. So, yeah, for the most part, if you step into my truck, I'm more than likely listening to an audiobook.
Cool. What's the last audiobook or the current audiobook that you're on, or your favorite one that you've recently listened to?
Oh, a book by Donahue Peebles. I gotta think of the Peebles Principles. He is a real estate entrepreneur. He's done a lot in the commercial development space. And I recommend this book to so many people just because it talks about developing relationships and leveraging those relationships and learning how long it takes for commercial real estate development to to grow. Yeah, so that's one of my favorite audiobooks. I listen to that at least 3 times now, and I've had it for about a year. But it's oh man, it's great stuff, especially if you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's sweet. One of the audiobooks I just finished is a book called Relentless by Tim Grover, which I really enjoyed, kind of some takeaways and stuff there. And I think that's super cool, where you can drive and gain knowledge, which, your kind of dual use of time, making money while driving, learning things that are going to add implied earning potential and knowledge to you down the road, man. And you can get well versed in pretty much any topic over the course of a year while working, and get a education and free tuition, if you will. So, man, that's badass.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Well, how about Eric, when you're like tired, say I know the other night you had a late load and the highway was closed, you were probably exhausted. Is there like a music that you put on just to like pump yourself up and like roll down the windows?
Oh man,
Got some friends.
sometimes I will do. The album's called Around the Fur. I'm trying to think of the name of the band right now. If I really need that kind of energy, definitely I'll go to rock music. I believe it's Deftones, but that's one of my favorite albums there. I'll throw that on and roll the windows down and, and make things happen.
You start like moving, just like shaking uncontrollably just to get your blood flowing or what?
Oh man, sometimes you got to stop the truck and just get out and walk and stretch and especially if I
Yeah.
mean the most dangerous thing you can do is drive that truck tired. So if I get to where I'm feeling that way, either A, I'm pulling over and taking a nap, or B, I'm getting out, getting the blood moving, getting the blood flowing back through my extremities, and trying to get back in the seat and get to it. But definitely, yeah, you don't want to drive fatigued. So, if you got to pull it over, take a nap, or do some jumping jacks, do some stretches. We talked about that exercise that truckers need, right? So that's one
Right, right.
opportunity that you may have to do that.
Yeah,
What's one of the
yeah.
most interesting things that you've come across either on the road, you've seen driving by, or at a truck stop? And quick note, is it true that, like trucker lingo, a truck stop is called a pickle park?
That's a new one. I've never heard it. I've never heard it called a pickle park. Maybe that's
Okay,
in specific
don't
regions of the country.
don't believe Google then.
Uh,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think
You don't want to
Kim's been
believe.
reading Urban Dictionary too much lately.
Yeah, you see all sorts of things on the road. I've got to the point now to where I'm kind of numb to it. Like I just see stuff and it's like, oh, and keep rolling. I did have my first flasher. I've seen that a couple times. One was a guy in Arkansas standing on a hill, and the only way you could have seen him if you were a trucker sitting up high enough. He was doing something that I did not want to see, and thankfully I had blacked that out until you reminded me of some of the loose jokes I was saying. I'm gonna have to go back to therapy for that one. But yeah,
Well,
you
yeah,
just
let's not unpack that here. Let's leave a paid professional for
yeah.
that.
But you see some interesting things on the road. Definitely, my first lady flasher was a very interesting experience. I didn't really know how to respond to it, but later I found out that I should have blown my air horn to show my appreciation for what was going on. So
Yeah, road etiquette.
Man,
Come
you
on now.
didn't. There is a girl that is still damaged by you not blowing that air horn somewhere.
yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh my goodness. All right. So as far as your role as a trucker, obviously you're on your way to, I guess different ventures. Is there anything else that you want to do? Because obviously, I think that something people fail to realize is that trucking can be a catapult, and then, I kind of that's been a theme of our conversation. But it can be a big catapult for you. You don't have to just be a lifelong trucker. You can use it as a way to gain revenue and a way to, invest in other ventures and other hobbies on the side, and potentially that can grow into something else. Do you have anything else that you're interested in? I know that you have a, diverse, wide array of things that you would like to do, as I think most people do, but some people get stuck in the idea of they have to just have a stable job and do that, and that's, their anchor. Tell us a little bit about
Oh,
maybe some other ambitions you have and
well, just like a lot of my mentors have told me, all roads lead to real estate. The end goal of everything that I'm doing is to own real estate. So once you own real estate, that's money coming in on a monthly basis, whether it's commercial, residential, those are additional funds coming in. You can also look at it as sometimes it's great just to buy land, just to hold on to the land. One of the things that I want to step to is farming. And I will tell you right now, as a truck driver, farming is a great opportunity for you. And you don't have to have a lot of things to qualify for a farm. It's a great tax write-off. Got that from my CPA. Shout out to him for dropping that gem
right,
on
right.
me. Something I eventually want to get into anyway, especially as I get later in my years. But uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, trucking is great in providing capital. It's a very capital intensive business. You have a lot of cash flow that comes through your account. And if you manage it wisely and invest it wisely in other things that will make you additional money, you can get out of trucking whenever you so choose. And that's really what I'm looking to do. There's a lot of guys who get trapped in the truck uh, because, one, maybe they really like doing it, but there's some guys that don't like doing it, but they don't have great money management skills. They come home on the weekend and they want to go blow all their money at the casino or, whatever they're doing. But if you use your funds wisely, invest in other money making opportunities, especially real estate, anybody can invest in real estate. It provides you additional funds to be able to step into other ventures. So for me, like I said, all roads lead to real estate. So at the end of the day, that's really the end goal.
Um, I think real estate is a great way to expand empire, a great way to build residual, wealth, just kind of long term. Do you look at doing anything with investments as far as even potentially crypto or some of the up and coming methods for that, or just traditional stocks or investments at all?
I do have some crypto and some traditional investment stocks, like the S&P 500, those things in that arena. But for the most part, I don't have enough money to truly be involved in those. I don't want to day trade. I don't want to mess with stock options. Um, I've talked to some millionaires, and it's funny. A lot of those guys, they stick with their main business until they get to a certain number. And then once they hit that magic number for them, whether it's 5 million, 10 million, then they look to diversify in crypto or stocks. But they might not necessarily do that themselves. They may hire someone who has more of the capability and the time to be able to do so. So I've stopped in that arena and I'm focusing more on what's earning me my cash flow now, so that I don't spread myself too thin in areas that I don't really have the time to dedicate to it. So I'd rather go this route and build up the foundation properly because I can always go in later on and drop $200,000 in the stock market and be right where that guy was that's been doing it for the last 5 years. So,
Right.
I've definitely moved away from the idea of FOMO, fear of missing out.
Okay.
That's what drives a lot of people into different things and keeping them off their square. So my biggest advice to people is stay on your square. If you've got something that's making money, keep going, keep reinvesting into it, grow it, grow it, grow it, grow it, and then make your decision whether you're going to sell it or do whatever you're going to do with it. And then once you're living comfortably, then diversify into stocks and cryptos, and things of that avenue because the markets fluctuate, but
Mhm.
as construction guys know, and other guys who are doing trade skills know, right now, like they made money through the pandemic, and most recessions they're still making great money. So
Oh yeah, trade
Right.
guys can make six figures, after they've gone through apprenticeship and all that. I mean, that's a great living wage. I don't care who you are and what part of the country. And I think going back to kind of staying your square, and I believe a reason a lot of people fail when they start diving into investments is they don't put enough emphasis and energy and time into research and learning the market and learning how to trade and identify patterns, and you got to treat that like a job, right? Like how many hours did it take for
yeah,
you to get your CDL? You had to go to school. How many hours was that? Plus drive time, plus testing, and equate that to any job you're going to do. You have to learn how to perform the job. You can't just throw money in and be like, all right, I lost money. That's why everyone loses money because they just don't understand, right? They're just throwing money blindly because of a Reddit group or someone on
Yeah,
Twitter
you
says, "Hey,
might get
invest
lucky
in this."
throwing some money in AMC.
Yeah, and there's people that get lucky, which I think creates this false narrative in people's minds that hey, I can make money. Like me being guilty of it, I was talking to a buddy of mine who actually knows what he's doing, but he goes, "Hey, I'm going to throw money in this because we were talking about it," and he goes, "It's based on risk tolerance. What do you want to do?" Well, I wasn't putting in money that's going to hurt me, so I said super high, like I'll be as risky as it can be. Threw it in and I doubled my money in 2 days. But he goes, "That's not normal." He goes, "Don't ever do that. This is not trading." So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
it
Yeah.
opened my eyes to be like, okay, that's why people get hooked because it's gambling if you don't know what you're
yeah,
doing. It's a pure gamble. And
Well,
exactly.
and even if you know what you're doing, it can be a gamble,
oh, it
right?
always
Because
is. You don't know what the
anything can
market's
change the
doing.
trajectory of,
Yeah.
investors' minds, really. So, and Eric, I don't want to backtrack too much real quick, but since we did seem to lose audio, do you want to like do a quick recap of like other ventures? So obviously with real estate. Was there anything else in there that you mentioned?
No, it's I was saying that all roads lead to real estate.
Right.
Every multimillionaire that you read, every billionaire that you meet, they own a buttload of land,
Yep.
and
Oh
that's
yeah.
really the end game for anyone who's looking to be to stack up a fortune. We talk about generational wealth, however you want to look at it. You're going to have some real estate in your portfolio, and you're going to have it at least be a good chunk of your portfolio. I won't say a percentage at all, but it's just going to need to be a good chunk of your portfolio. There's nothing like, I mean, I've been a landlord before in the past. Before I moved down here, I had a rental property, and I sold it before I moved here, but there is nothing like seeing a check roll in at the beginning of the month that you literally put in minimal effort to do anything to get that check.
Right,
So
right, right.
that's
Yeah, I
why
actually
I
watched.
really dig. Yo, go ahead.
Oh no, no. I was actually just gonna say I actually watched a video the other day of how, like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and other of, the largest entrepreneurs and billionaires have been buying up just massive amounts of farmland. I mean, some of them are in the, millions of acres, and they're because it's so valuable. And obviously we know real estate itself is valuable, but like you said about farmland, tax write-offs, and just the fact that you can kind of automate the land for the use of it, and then as it becomes more and more scarce, it obviously grows in value. So I think it was saying over the last 40 years, it's tripled in value to own farmland, which I think originally wasn't obviously very much of an expensive commodity. You could still make money off it, still appreciate at a decent rate, but now it's just like become more and more scarce, and it's this great asset to add to your portfolio, like you said. So I think it's really cool, man. I think it's great. It sounds like you got your head on straight all the time, and that's why we wanted to have you on here. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good conversation, hopefully eye-opening to those that can realize you can expand money to go make money for you and have other endeavors aside from your main vehicle or driver of income. I think the big thing too to point out, and I I don't want to speak for you, Eric, but I'd love to hear like your strategy. But one of the things that I do, especially even with like my guys like Ryan over at the Valley Trucking Insurance side, is I make them write up a business plan. Right? I want a business plan. I want goals laid out. I want motivations of why. You know, what's your reason why you want to do what you want to do, whether it's freedom of time, control of your schedule, kids, family, whatever it is, doesn't matter because you have to have a reason, I feel, more than just money. Because, I mean, money only gets you so far, and once you make that, then what, right? It's kind of, it's not going to fulfill you and get you up every day to learn. Like you're going to be on the road listening to an audiobook about real estate investing. You know, I mean, you're taking the steps necessary to learn about what you're trying to dive into. How do you approach your strategies for executing these thoughts so it's not just a FOMO and like impulsive to just say, hey, I'm going to go do this, or hey, I want to just get into real estate, or hey, I want a rental, without like truly understanding it? What was your approach to that and approach to it in your life?
So I look at it as really, what's my end goal? Where do I want to be when I'm in my twilight years, right? What does that look like? And I decided that for my end goal, it was to have a certain amount of capital coming in, right? Coming into my life to be able to support, sustain my lifestyle so that way I don't have to go to work. I don't have to work when I'm like 75 years old because really that's where this country's going to. People are going to be working way later into their twilight years. And I said, well, how do I do that with the things that I enjoy, right? I like heavy equipment. I like real estate. I like working hard. That's why I do open deck. I like working, right? But your body can only do those things for so long, right? So that's where it came down to understanding that a real estate portfolio can provide all those things that I want. If I need a large sum of cash, I can sell a property. You know,
Right, right.
Yeah.
I can do that, right? It doesn't have to require me to still be physically working. I don't have to physically be in the office somewhere unless I choose to be. Once the portfolio is there, I can hire a management team to manage it. So that's where my mindset was. What is my end goal? What do my twilight years look like? How do I provide an opportunity for my children as well to take advantage of what I've built, right? So one of the things about real estate is that I can put the real estate in the trust and put my children on as beneficiaries of the trust, and that property continue going on with them to feed their family and maybe my great grandchildren and my great great grandchildren, right? If I do it correctly. But
Yep.
so that's how I ended up at that all. I mean, and it wasn't just me saying that all roads lead to real estate. Again, I have mentors that have helped to mold my mind to think in that way, right? But I tell people all the time, when you get into business, when you are thinking about things, What's the end goal? Where do you want to end up? And there are so many distractions along the way. Like I said, I want to operate heavy equipment instead of driving a truck right now. Do I regret it? No, not at all. But am I where I wanted to be when I initially set out? No. So I need to move back in that direction of where I want it to be and set myself up to move back into that direction. So I hope that answered your question, but really it's
Yeah.
keeping the end goal in mind, what this thing looks like when I'm done.
Yep. No, I think starting with an end, I don't want to say goal because I don't think that really applies there, but just like an end realization of what that life looks like. What do you want your life to be? What do you want to be able to pass down? What do you want to leave as legacy and all that kind of stuff? So yeah, I think that answered the question perfectly. I really
Well, you
like
just
that.
have to deduce, right?
Yeah.
You have to, I think in any conversation I've ever had with somebody who's big on building goals, it's deducing where you want your endpoint to be. So yeah, it doesn't have to be an end goal, but yeah, like how you visualize your life and then working backwards to figure out the steps how to get there, because sometimes it's hard to learn what that first step is or what the next five steps are going to be, and obviously they can change. But yeah, I think that's huge, Eric. Like really you just have to envision where you want to be and figure out what steps it's going to take to get there.
Well, I think people put too much emphasis on outlining and researching and analyzing what the steps need to be without actually taking a step. I don't think it's as hard as people make it out to be. They typically do, they get analysis or, paralysis by analysis because they want to perfect the steps before they take any steps to actually know, hey, this is what it's done. Now, obviously research what others do and find someone that you idolize and try to find a mentor and what they've done to get where they're at and like get some guidance. And I think the most important thing to ask anyone in a position that you idolize or want a mentorship from is, hey, what are the failures that you encountered? What's your biggest regret? What's the thing that stuck with you? Not what you did as far as wins, but what were your failures so you can avoid those pitfalls and then map your road and then honestly just take action. That's the biggest thing, right? Is you just have to take steps. Create a plan, execute, take steps, and then kind of be open-minded to reflect on those periodically, whether it's quarterly or semi-annual or whatever it ends up being, to make adjustments moving forward based on what you're learning, right? Being self-aware, um, analyzing data, analyzing the market, making sure you're staying up on trends or whatever the case may be. So um, take action. I think that's the biggest thing that, as far as a piece of advice would be from me, is for folks is just take action. So
Well, yeah, and things change, right? You can plan all day long, but there's always going to be something that throws your plan off. It doesn't matter
I mean,
whatever you
we
do.
just got out of it, right? With the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still in it. We're not even out of it. In fact, I'm shooting this not from my studio today, except from at my house because half my family has COVID. So we're quarantining. And so you have to be able to adapt. And the beauty is, with technology and YouTube and the internet and so many people you can follow and content you can digest, you can learn from so many different avenues at any time of the day. You don't have to go to the library. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to do certain things that you would have had to do in the past, such as networking and finding these people. They're all around you. You just have to look and listen, right? So, no, I think that's
Absolutely.
cool. Hey,
So
Eric, like, what would be your biggest piece of advice to someone, even a company person looking to go the lease owner route or owner operate route? Like, what's the biggest piece of advice, and what was your maybe failure, like biggest thing that kind of was like, oh, I didn't expect that you could share with some of the listeners?
The biggest thing is do the research about what company you're going to, making sure you understand the ins and out of it, and talk to guys who are at that company. Granted, there's some guys who always have a negative attitude, and they're always going to tell you the negative things, right? But there's a lot of guys who are going to be great mentors to you and give you advice on how to do things. Like, driving trucks, truck drivers love to talk. And if you go up and ask a question, I mean, I've walked up to some of the biggest, burliest guys that you think would just be super mean, and I just say, hey, how's it going? And we just strike up a conversation, and they will give me all the knowledge that they have in regards to trucking and how they succeeded, where they wish they would have done something different. The biggest thing is do your research. Find a company that's paying at 70% minimum if you're going to be on a lease purchase. Understand the paperwork that you're signing, how much the truck is worth that you're paying for. Understanding the terms, making sure that you can walk away from the lease if you decide this isn't for you. Make sure there's not some penalty from walking away from the lease. And understanding if funds are going in the escrow, how much funds are going to the escrow. What catches a lot of guys off guard is the maintenance of the truck, right? They don't realize that moving from a company side, that some of the maintenance stuff for the truck itself you may be paying out of pocket. So understanding that when you get that paycheck, right, you need to be putting some additional money into another account just for maintenance alone. So that way, when you're on the road and you blow a tire unexpectedly on the tractor, you're not scrambling trying to figure out how you're going to pay for that tractor tire, or if you got enough money in escrow, you've got your maintenance account, pull it from the maintenance account, throw the tire on, keep making money, right? It's truck maintenance is probably going to be your largest expense for the truck, keeping the truck up, making sure it runs well. Some companies only change their oil every 50,000 miles. I'm not down with that. I change my oil about every 15,000 miles, right? It's better for the truck long term, but that's an expense that I pay out of my pocket. An oil change for me costs me, if I go to the TA, it costs me about $400 in that range, right? But for me, that's preventative maintenance of the truck. You've got to know about that truck. You've got to learn everything you can about that truck. There's some things that you're not going to know, but some things that you can fix on your own without having to get a tow or without having to call out road assist, because road assist is not cheap. There's a markup on the parts when they come out there, and there's additional fee for them just to roll out there, right? If you can fix it yourself and limp it to a truck stop and then try to get the part yourself or then put it in the shop, you'll save yourself a lot of money. But the biggest pitfalls that guys come into the lease operator side is they don't know enough about the truck. They don't do proper pre-trips. They don't, which are important because you can catch a lot of things before you even leave to get it corrected, and it comes back and it hurts them later on. But learning more about the trucks when the truck is in the shop, asking the mechanic questions, ask them what they're doing. If they're in the shop and not willing to talk to you, that's not a shop that you want to ever return to again, because them taking a few minutes and telling you about what happened, how they're fixing it, can save you a lot of money later on down the road if that issue happens again, right? Oh, I know what this looks like. He told me that if this happens, do this. All right, so I can go to the truck, I can do this, I can get it running, I can get back on the road to making more money, and I can address the issue either later down the road or after I get that load off my back, whatever, right? Um, so the biggest pitfall that I see guys consistently run into, and it will bankrupt your company so quickly, is that truck having consistent breakdowns. That's the number one enemy of a truck driver, especially owner operator or lease purchase guy. That will put you out of business quicker than anything else.
Yeah.
Right,
And not
right.
having the money set aside to fix it, anticipating the breakdowns
Yep.
because they happen. So,
Killer. Well, Eric, we have one question that we like to ask everybody, and I know you just gave a nice, expansive view on your advice to owner operators or leased owned operators, truck drivers in general, maybe. Um, if there was something you could put on a billboard just to broadcast to everybody, not just truck drivers, what would that one message be?
Don't be afraid to jump out the window. You got to take risk in this life. Sitting back and hoping and praying things work out, that you're going to magically make $1 million will never make you $1 million. You've got to go out there and try stuff, and you are going to fail. I promise you, you're going to fail. We live in a society to where we think that you've got to knock it out the park on your first go, and that's not the reality that you live in. There are entrepreneurs out there that have had 5 and 6 businesses not do well until they finally get that one, that takes off and they're super successful with it. And you don't hear enough about those guys and the 5 or 6 businesses that they opened before, right? And they didn't work out. And I think it's very important for people to understand those failures aren't failures, they're teaching lessons. They teach you what to do so the next business you open up has a little bit more success. And then the next business you open up has even more success. And then once you figure out your blueprint, all you're doing is you're taking that blueprint, that structure, and you're applying it, that's successful, right? And you're just applying it to every business that you open up because you've already gone through the pitfalls of things that didn't work out. You learn what works, what doesn't work. You've got the blueprint in front of you. Just keep applying it.
Right, yeah. So you heard it from Eric Youngblood. Take risks. I mean, I think it's a great lesson. People just kind of forget that everybody was new to everything at some point, and you're never going to learn a new trade. You're never going to learn a new road to go down unless you really are willing to take action, take risks. And yeah, I mean, I think it's great advice, and it's something that's probably overlooked a lot. That you just need to try things, try new things. You can get to new places.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great. Have a good set of principles, build those, always learn from your current and past endeavors and apply that moving forward, man. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, man. Just a ton of great, valuable content unpacked there. I'm sure that anyone listening to that will be able to find something helpful and useful coming from it. So, like I said, I was super excited to have this conversation with a little bit of tales from behind the wheel and then unpacking, entrepreneurship, starting your own company, some corporate structure, LLC, taxable stuff. Most important, talk to a CPA that is versed in trucking and transportation to get you all the maximum write-offs and best structure and more importantly, a plan. He had unpacked in there, hey, if I do grow and add trucks, I'm going to go SCorp because of these reasons. And there's some other things that obviously you'd want to consult a CPA on. So, man, so appreciative. Thank you for your time, Eric. I know Ryan and
Definitely.
myself really are truly grateful and thankful that you spent an hour of time with us and helping the viewers and listeners. So that does it for this episode. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you so much. Remember, we've got a Facebook group now. Get a load of this on over on Facebook. So follow us there. There's a lot of great information and some discounts from vendors and stuff like that. And this podcast is driven by Valley Truck and Insurance. Thank you from bottom of my heart. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, guys.